So let's begin. Okay. Grand Rising, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And let me turn this music down a little tad bit, give some type of a backdrop, but not too much. Okay. Peace. Okay, we're here. This is the Alchemic Academic Class 1, where we are hopefully, or without a shadow of a doubt, I might say, teaching you about yourself. We are dealing with DNA activation through tarot and astrology. Today, we're dealing with the major arcana exclusively. And we have an additional build on the minor arcana, but we will talk about that later, extremely later. Okay. So I want y'all to utilize the go slower, go faster, those types of things so I can find a nice pace. And hopefully, you guys are really listening and engaging. So if you guys have a question, unmute yourself, ask the question, feel free to interrupt me. But, think about if this can wait. If it can't wait, then feel free to answer it. But if it can wait, wait till the question and answer period. Okay. So let me just give you an overview of what we will be talking about today, and then we'll move forward into the table of contents. So, what we're dealing with today is a complex concept. And it's complex, however, most of us are doing it already. And the purpose of this class is to make it simpler and much more applicable. I want you guys to understand that this is a gradual process that may or may not have overnight successes depending on what energies you work with. But the hopes is that you can grasp this entire concept of speaking through your DNA and activating your DNA, as opposed to focusing on the content, which is whether you like it or dislike it. This is simply about activating your DNA, your personal DNA, period. Okay, so we can place everything aside and we can deal with the facts. Okay, today we will be looking at major arcana of the tarot. Some people say tarot, but I've always heard tarot, and we'll explain that a little bit later. We'll relate it to the 22 planetary objects, meaning the sun, moon, stars, and things of that nature, Venus, Saturn, the constellations, and we'll also relate it to the 22 Kabbalistic alphabets. And we'll also relate the 22 Kabbalistic alphabets to our 22 chromosomes of DNA. Now we have 23, but the 22 is what brings us all here together. It is said that 99% of us share the first 22 chromosomes. So in activating these 22 chromosomes, we are activating our spiritual DNA when we activate our 23rd chromosome. So this is something that we'll talk about. Like I said, we're going to deal with complex and scientific material. And what we're going to do with this complex and scientific material is take the confusing out of it, make it simpler and applicable. So, in order to utilize the full benefits of this course, do not pretend you do not want anything, right? We all have desires. We all wish to create things in our lives. So when you just like, oh, I'm cool with what I got, that's cool. But keep it real. You want more, or you want to get rid of some things that you don't necessarily know how to get rid of. And this is how we are going to hack our DNA through coding and change our lives. So do not pretend that you know everything. I won't do that. That's why I'm opening this up for questions. Okay. And if you guys can hear me okay, go ahead and click yes, and make sure everything is copacetic, because I've been talking, and I don't want this to be Kyrie drone on and on and on. I'm not gonna introduce myself because obviously everybody knows who I am. If you don't know who I am, www.hoodmystic.com, the about section. Okay, so the purpose of this class is to learn how to directly activate the hidden or spiritual strands of DNA through the occult symbolism of the major arcana through a 4-step process of activation. This is the only slide that I will have on twice. The 4-step process of activating your DNA. So in the value of this course, this is what I'm hanging my hat on. If you do these steps, and your DNA is not activated and your life is not changing, be sure to email me and say I want my $23 back, and I will send it back to you. Okay? All right. I'm gonna go through these points. I'm gonna go through these slides because your time is of an essence. Okay, so with every point that I make, I might elaborate 2 to 3 points, and I'm moving on. If I'm going too fast, please interrupt me. You're going too fast. If I'm hanging my hat on something, okay, we got it. Go ahead. Okay, let me know because it's all about the flow. All right. So, what are we talking about today? What is DNA? A lot of people have DNA but don't know what it is. I didn't know what DNA was until I actually studied it. Okay, from there, we will find DNA's connection to the tree of life. When I did the study of DNA, it automatically synced up with the tree of life. Now, explain that. The tree of life's connection to you. How important is the tree of life in your understanding of it? How important is the Kabbalistic system of alphabets in your understanding of it? Okay. Astrology in the tree of life. We all reference astrological terms, but what if I told you these were all Kabbalistic modalities? Then would you understand that it's important to study Kabbalah in its alphabet? Tarot in the tree of life. Now, if this is throwing you off that I mentioned Kabbalah and things of that nature, please be sure that if you study astrology and tarot, you're already referencing Kabbalah, okay? Because if you remove Kabbalah, if you remove the tree of life, then the world that we know it probably doesn't exist. And I'll explain that a little bit further because all we are doing in this life is programming our DNA, okay? That's all we're doing. We're programming and reprogramming our DNA. But how do you begin to program your DNA? Maybe it's as simple as saying, hey, I program in my DNA. Or is it the particular practice of divination? We've all lit a candle or two, did a ritual or four, right? And what are we actually doing? Are we trying to will things into our lives, or are we trying to activate our latent DNA, our latent DNA? I think that it is to awaken our latent DNA. But what are the numerologies and the astrological and the tarot implications to activating that? We'll talk about it. And finally, I will get into my conclusion of what this course is, and tie it up with a nice bow, but then give you another package. And from there, we will do the Q&A. Like I said, if you were here earlier, if we have to sit here till 8 p.m., I'm willing to do that. Keep in mind, it is my anniversary, and I did plan to go to the Stargate in downtown Detroit. However, if the questions are too pressing and the questions begin to get too vast, I'll have to make that sacrifice. So this is why we are here, okay? And then additionally, because I said this earlier, what I'll do is I'll take everyone's email and I'll put it in the Slack in a specific channel to this class. So any manifestations, any additional questions, any builds on this particular information, we can continue to have this classroom-like atmosphere, okay? So, and it'll give us a chance to get to know each other. And